Senator Hirono, are you tuned in?
Yes, I am. Thank you,
away.
Mr. Chairman. I would like to ask what I think is a very straightforward question. Over the past couple of years, the Justice Department has initiated a number of efforts related to missing and murdered Indigenous people and women, including U.S. Attorney-led pilot projects in Alaska and Oklahoma to implement tailored tribal community response plans. To what extent do you plan to continue to focus on these and other regional engagement efforts that could help address the missing and murdered Indigenous people crisis?
Well, I certainly do intend to continue those. Again, last time I was in the Justice Department, the Office of Tribal Justice was established, and I believe from looking at the org chart that it's still there. This is an important aspect. We have a responsibility to Indigenous peoples, both statutory and otherwise, to protect. And many of our problems in this country are regional, and we must focus our resources on problems that are regional. Not every problem is a national one, and regional problems have to be addressed directly with respect to the problems caused in those regions. And this,
thank you, Judge Garland, because I think this is an possibly underreported, and definitely we don't pay enough attention to what is happening to murdered and missing and Indigenous women. So I think we need to put a lot more emphasis on what's going on there. Now, the past 4 years have seen a reawakening of right-wing extremism. Last year, FBI Director Wray testified that the greatest domestic terrorist threat facing the United States is white extremist groups. And of course, last month we had an insurrection at the U.S. Capitol led by white supremacists and right-wing extremists. Late last month, the New York Times reported that President Trump, with the help of his Attorney General Barr, diverted law enforcement resources from combating the serious threat posed by right-wing extremist groups. Will you reprioritize Justice Department resources to address white supremacists and other right-wing extremists?
Yes, Senator, if anything was necessary to refocus our attention on white supremacists, that was the attack on the Capitol, and I expect to put all departmental resources necessary to combat this problem into this area, to make sure both our agents and our prosecutors have the numbers and the resources to accomplish that mission.
Thank you. My next question has to do with the immigration courts. And we discussed immigration and the courts when we were able to meet a few weeks ago. And it's worth highlighting that under the Trump administration, the backlog of cases pending in the immigration courts has exploded to almost 1.3 million cases. That is an amazing number. In some jurisdictions, the wait to hear a case is 4 years, and there are cases that have been pending for more than 5 years. And this not only affects families trying to reunite, but students trying to study or train in the U.S., victims of crime who are working with law enforcement, and members of our military trying to adjust status. 1.3 million backlog. How will you address this backlog and increase the efficiency of the immigration courts?
Yeah, this is an extraordinarily serious problem. Looking from my pampered perch as an appellate judge who has a limited number of cases and weeks to study those and then weeks and weeks to write those, I can't imagine how judges can operate under the conditions that you describe and that I have heard even from other judges exist. When I get into the department, if I'm confirmed, I will certainly look into what can be done about this. I suppose this must mean an increase in the number of resources and judges, It must mean some ability to give to the judges, to prioritize their cases. Even in our own appellate courts, we have developed ways in which we handle some cases more swiftly, and some cases take longer. Some cases are summarily resolved. Some require full opinions. Some way of evaluating this is required, but I can't give you any specific idea with respect to court administration, which I know something about, but not an enormous about, until I have a chance to get into the department if confirmed and to understand what the cause of this huge backlog and number of cases is.
There is an executive office for immigration review that oversees these, but I think the really important thing is an acknowledgement that this kind of serious backlog has got to be addressed, and because lives are at stake here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Hirono.